Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening, this near stormy evening, to attend our meet and greet uh, with Chief Aziz and the County Executive, Angela Also Brooks, for a conversation about public safety in Prince George's County. For taking the time this evening, this near stormy evening, attend our meet and greet. My name is David Sloan from the Office of the County Executive. We're thankful that you've made time for tonight. As always, we have a thoughtful agenda planned. We're going to move through efficiently for your benefit. We want to thank Suitland High School. That was our host location for tonight. But due to the inclement weather, we've decided to go 100% virtual. We thank Suitland for being ready, and we will be back. First, we'd like to take some time to just reflect on the last year. And since taking office, the county executive has been committed to communicating honestly and thoroughly with you and our entire Prince George's family. Additionally, she has empowered your government to act and to act with compassion, emphasizing policymaking that's thoughtful and always focused on preserving the lives of Prince Georgians. She's been focused on public safety 100% of the time and our public health. And tonight, she's here to share more with our new chief. Please welcome our county executive, the Honorable Angela Also Brooks.
All right, thank you so much. First of all, to you, David Sloan, you always do an amazing job. We are really fortunate to have you working again tonight to help us present this particular forum. So thank you so much. I also just want to say thank you to everyone for signing on tonight. We know this is a stormy night. And many of you had to change plans. I know there were some who were expecting to join us in person, but the inclement weather prevented us from doing so. I also want to reiterate something that David said, which is to thank so much Suitland High School, who very generously agreed to host us in person tonight before we had to cancel that plan again because of the inclement weather. So I do want to thank the leadership at Suitland High School for planning to have us there in person. I'd also like to thank a number of representatives from county government who have joined us virtually tonight. There is Unisha Davis, who's the director of the Office of Community Relations, who does a magnificent job. I know many of you probably already know her, but she's joined us. Again, David Sloan, who is our Director of Policy Planning and Public Affairs, who's on the line. Lieutenant Charmaine Harvin is here as well, Special Assistant to the Prince George's County Police Department, as well as many of the members of our command staff who are here tonight. So I want to thank the leadership of the department who are here, and also want to acknowledge the county council members and other elected officials who I know are joining us virtually this evening. And later on, you're going to hear from our chair, the chair of the county council, Calvin Hawkins, who's an amazing partner along with the council. He's been working hard to help us reduce crime and to care for our residents, especially during this pandemic. I want to thank him for his outstanding leadership and thank him also for taking time to be present tonight. And of course, this evening, I would want to introduce to you once again our new chief of police, Chief Malik Aziz, who you will hear from shortly, who is here tonight to discuss the state of public safety in Prince George's County. We're excited to hear the plans that he has. You all know that we are all troubled by what we have seen in terms of the increase in violent crime. That crime is upticking not only here in Prince George's County, but what we know is that there has been an uptick in crime all across America. And we have all been impacted in so many corners of our community by it. And we know that Prince Georgians want to feel safe. We want you to feel safe in every corner of our community and to actually be safe. And so tonight's discussion is really important to all of us. And we're here because we want to assure you that your safety and well-being is our top priority. And that we are really interested in not only having discussions with you to hear about the things that concern you, but also just want to make sure that we, in the interest of transparency, keep you updated on the things that we're working on to reverse the trend that we're seeing so that we can continue to build on the successful history that we've had in our county of reducing violent crime. And so, unfortunately, again, what we've seen is happening all across the country. But what we know is that together, as a community, we absolutely have the power to stop the crime trend that we're seeing. And when we work together, there's really nothing that can hold us back. We know that because we just finished knocking the doors off of this global pandemic together. And I know that we're going to do much the same in terms of reversing what we've seen in terms of crime. And that, you know, one of the things we know about crime that's really important is that reversing a rise in crime requires more than just police presence. We know that it requires that we provide the basic necessities that our residents need, especially at a time like this after COVID-19. And so reducing crime requires as well that we provide our youth with positive outlets as well as positive role models. It is a comprehensive approach to crime that we must keep in mind. And so we're working as well to make sure that we combine our approach to crime with positive reform-minded policing, and we believe that we'll be able to reverse what we're seeing. Tonight, you'll hear from Chief Aziz, who understands that reducing crime also means that we have to work to achieve equity, and that prevention also is the best medicine that we find for crime reduction. And I'm honored to have him here. I'm confident that he is the right person to lead our department, especially at a time like this, and to work to tackle not only crime and increasing crime, but reform as well. And he's no stranger to it. Chief Aziz has been a member of the police department from Dallas, Texas for nearly 30 years. And so he is a person who is experienced, who also has a focus on social justice, and this focus has allowed us to highlight some of the inequities, not only in policing, but understands the inequities that happen in health and education, and policing in particular. And so we're working to close gaps that exist not only here, but exist across the country. And you know that that work was going on even before Chief Aziz made his way to Prince George's County, and that I formed last July the Prince George's County Police Reform Group, work group, which included representatives from the community, activists, advocates, and individuals with a background in civil rights, and public servants from inside and outside of the police department. And together, they created for us an actionable list of items that had 50 recommendations. We adopted 46 of them, and we're working on implementing those recommendations as we speak. And I want to thank all who are the police department is working really hard, along with Chief Aziz, to implement those right now. And the scope of the work group was really broad, but we believe that we're going to be better and stronger as a result of implementing those particular reforms. And so I am going to, at this point, to hand over in just a moment the program to our chair of the county council. But before I do that, I also want to thank the members of our community who have done something that has been important, but really fun for us. We started a series of community walks that have been happening around the county through a collaboration between my office, the police department, the Office of Community Relations, and other county agencies. And so we've been walking through communities across Prince George's County and talking with residents to hear their concerns related to crime, as well as other quality of life issues. And these agencies have been tasked with following up with our residents, and they have been so generous to join us on those walks to help point out items of concern. And again, agency directors, members of our police department, fire department have all been joining us on those walks, and they have been extremely productive. So we want to thank you for your engagement there. And then I also just want to tell you that today was exciting, and that we launched the Alsobrooks Passport Program. It was the summer passport experience for young people 12 to 18 years old. So get excited about that. And this program is designed to help enrich the lives of our young people, to learn new skills, to socialize. And so we're partnering with the Police Athletic League on a few of these opportunities, including whitewater rafting is a part of it as well. And so this information is on our social media pages at CEX Alsobrooks. Our Department of Parks and Recreation is also working with us to provide even more summer programming for options for residents of all ages. And today we're announcing a new summer crime initiative as well with our police department. It's called Operation Heatwave, which Acting Chief Aziz will discuss in more detail. Operation Heatwave will address crime prevention, crime enforcement, and community engagement. And based on intelligence that we've gathered, we're targeting this initiative to take place in Suitland, Seat Pleasant, Temple Hills, Langley Park, Lewisdale, and Riverdale. And this program is running all summer until September 8th. And it'll help our residents to keep their communities safe from crime. And overall, Operation Heat Wave is meant to work with other efforts as well to reduce crime. And so I want to thank Acting Chief Aziz and the entire Prince George's County Police Department for putting together this program. And in a moment, the chief will provide more details on Operation Heat Wave and some of the other efforts that are underway in our police department. So thank you all again so much for tuning in. I am so proud to serve a community that is so engaged. I want to thank all of you for your individual efforts to make sure that Prince George's County remains strong and safe and a place that we can work, play, and live and raise our families. And so before we pass it over and take your questions, I'd like to welcome my tremendous partner, my colleague. We have Council Chair Calvin Hawkins, the People's Champion, who is on the line tonight, who does a phenomenal job. I don't know how he's in so many places all at the same time, but he's a man whose work ethic and heart for the people is really inspiring. So thank you so much, Chair Hawkins, for joining us to represent your colleagues also on the council. And we'd love to have you to give some remarks at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive Alsa Brooks. Thank you for having this very, very important discussion tonight. I am honored to have this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues on the County Council to work with you and our new chief, Acting Chief Aziz, as you go through the county. I had an opportunity to participate in one of those walks, and like the county executive said, it was such an incredible opportunity, and it felt so good to see our citizens interacting with the county agencies, specifically our police officers. And we keep hearing the negativity about our police department. County Executive, as you and your team have walked in these communities, I observed citizens believing in the professionalism and the integrity of our police department. As you search internationally for one that could come in and transform our county from a public safety standpoint, you went somewhere and found this guy from Dallas and you convinced him that Prince George's County was the place to be. And with that said, we are looking so forward, after having individual conversations with our acting chief and collective discussions, we are looking forward, County Executive Alsa Brooks, for that day, June the 24th at 10 a.m., when your acting chief appears before the County Council Committee of the Whole for his confirmation. And you have said it all, Chief, we looking forward to you. You're a community police officer and your leadership is known throughout the country for the work you have done. And we are just grateful that Prince George's County, through the leadership of our county executive and her initiatives, she was able to convince you that this is the place to be. We are going to do our part, and you're going to find out how many friends the police department actually have because of the great work you will do in the days to come. Thank you for this opportunity. And again, County Executive Alsa Brooks, once again, you've brought a 5-star leader to help this county move forward. And we are Prince George's proud because of you and the work you're doing. Thank you again for this opportunity on behalf of the County Council. We welcome you, Chief. Again, thank you very much.
And with that, we'll go ahead, David. Yes.
And with that, now we're here from Chief Aziz. We appreciate the public servant you are with a track record of success, collaboration, inclusiveness, and effectiveness. Chief Aziz.
Thank you so much. It's my honor and pleasure to greet every one of you tonight. First, I'd like to thank the county executive. Appreciate you so much in my selection among many fine candidates, and you selected me. And, I heard it being spoken before in other areas. I was quite sure I was in the right place when I met you face to face. And you're the greatest seller of Prince George's County that I've ever seen. For any county or city or any other jurisdiction that exists, and you make people want to be Prince George's proud. So that's first and foremost. And thank you to the Common Council Chair, who always speaks glowingly. I'm honored to be in your presence and be with a person who is so community minded and wants to focus on all the positivity going forward, building Prince George's County and into the greatest county in the United States. So I really appreciate you both. My team is on here, and if I ever can't answer anything, I'm quite positive that they can answer or elaborate on many things that I say. I'm only a few weeks into the job, about 5 weeks into the job. So there's some things I know contextually, but on the Zoom tonight is Deputy Chief Tony Schottner, if you wave at Tony, Deputy Chief George Nichols, Acting Deputy Chief Keena Webster, and Acting Deputy Chief Kevin Hughes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Let me start out by saying, we're going into the summer. And in my perspective, these things are a way of life for me. The county executive was talking about summer crime for months now. Since I know before I got the job, we was talking about crime. Summer crime was on her mind when it was spring. And we think alike on that. When I look at how we operate crime, it should become in the crime zone, it should become a way of life. And I say this, community policing is crime reduction, and crime reduction is community policing. They go hand in hand together. When we listen to the community, when we address their needs, and we have problem resolution, that we intend to maintain these things over periods of time. And our biggest enemy has been consistency. So we developed the summer crime plan, Operation Heatwave, and would take us into September and end September 8th through September 7th, I should say. But this way of life that we're putting in, that operations become a norm, that I operate in spring crime fighting plans, summer crime fighting plans, fall crime fighting plans, holiday crime fighting plans, and the winter crime fighting plan. So in my eyes, I see 5 strategies that we fight crime that involve holidays, special events, things that we know that happen every year. And the summer is no different. Every police department across the nation, and the great majority of the almost 19,000 police departments know that it's a uptick in crime during the summer. And usually if you catch any break, it'll go down in the fall and during the holidays. But usually the summer can be very relentless. And checking with the executive staff and making my visits around to the districts, then the summer in Prince George's County is no different than most major locales and jurisdictions across the United States. So we say, what are we going to do during the summer for Operation Heatwave? We're up against numbers, even though these are very strange years or peculiar years versus last year in 2020 with a pandemic. And we closely relate to the 2019 numbers. Of what we've seen is an uptick either way from 19 to 20. So we would look at our numbers and the stats, because the stats indicate something that can be real or something that can be perceived. And when they come together and they meet, then it's our obligation to make sure that we do our part in this partnership. I often speak of partnerships, and this 50-50 partnership that the police have with the community. It's not too heavy on either side, but we intend to join together to drive down these type of crimes. And what I speak is violent crime during the summer, because that is really the most important aspect of how we keep a community safe inside of a partnership. So looking at these stats, and we see an uptick in violent crimes all the way around. Even last year in 2020, we experienced a total, of 13,000, over 13,000 crimes, which is a large amount of crimes because each one of those would have a victim associated with it. So the objective, dealing with what we call a triangle, dealing with person, places, and behaviors, is to remove one of those elements out. Therefore, we should have a decrease in violent crime. So stats become our way of life. And every morning here, the first thing that we look at here are the stats from the previous days to see where we're going. And the best way that we can address it with plans is to see where we've been, what locations are experiencing an uptick in crime. And we try to drill down to the smallest areas in order to address it. And you might, ask, well, how will we address these crimes? So we developed the plan. And what my motto has always been is that no one gets a pass during the summer. Everyone fights crime during the summer. All entities of the police department and all of our agencies that can and departments, our fellow departments, can lend a hand in us driving down crime during the summer. And the best eyes and ears that we have is the community. So the plan revolves around the community. I look at it as a fire. And when you're looking at, most fire department officials will tell you this is, where you get it from. When I talk about person, places, and behavior, and you need three things for that to happen: person, places, and behaviors. Just like a fire, you need oxygen and heat and fuel, and then you need a chemical reaction to make that take place. Well, person, places, and behaviors are like that, and that chemical reaction usually can be associated with the community. And so we have to remove them. So I look at these plans and say, well, how can we remove them? That means every district has to have a sub-operational plan that they focus on. And that's what we've developed, an overall comprehensive plan that will involve the reduction of violent crime, the attempt to reduce violent crime during the summer, enhancing community engagement, focusing on crime prevention, and engaging with our youth and our seniors. So we added those elements in together among smaller subcategories, but the main categories would be that. And it's an all-out, front to making sure that we reduce the crime during the summer, because it's a very limited opportunity to expend our resources to drive down those numbers that some criminals intend to make victims of our citizens who are out, living in the county and working, playing, or being entertained. So weekly crime meetings will take place after we have sub-operational meetings. Every district commander will meet weekly in order to address the crime that has happened in the previous days in his or her location in all districts, all 8 districts. And then here at the headquarters where I'm at right now, we have weekly meetings to address the crime issues that are spiking, to come up with different ways. It is about resources. It is about putting tools inside a tool chest. It is about what are we doing right in a model that seeks to gather the intelligence so we can deploy properly around the areas that we know historically have caused us problems. Looking at the past here, one thing that I noticed, and it's not unlike any other locale, that most of the places that we deal with have historically had, issues. And whether those, what we call hotspots, and the reason we call them that because they have different colors, but if it had been red, which would intensify that there's a major issue going on with multiple crimes, whether violent or non-violent, and then we looked at those places. So I looked at them, and historically, we've seen them flare up from time to time. So our common sense already tells us that we need to be in certain places that have a uptick in crime throughout the years, whether it's 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So we decided to concentrate, just not a county-wide effort, but those efforts that you heard, the areas that you heard the county executive mentioned before, from Suitland and Temple Hills, Capitol Heights and Langley Park, Lewisdale and Riverdale, as well as those areas that bump up against the district that people cross the jurisdictional lines with ease, going back and forth to commit criminal activity. So we implemented those areas specifically with our resources that they would concentrate for 3 months in those locations in order to drive down the issues that we know to exist. And stats, again, become our way of life, and for our deployment, for our officers, our best assets being our community and our police. So we've implemented a few things with that. As you heard before, the focus walks, not only that we're out there with the county executive doing walks, but the officers are also doing, park walk and talks, getting into the community, talking about this thing that we've been calling community policing for a very long time. And community policing is just that. Where do we best engage with our citizens? How do we best engage with them? I tell officers, people who work for me all the time, crime is not bureaucratic. Community policing is not bureaucratic. The best ideas that we have can come from anywhere, and usually they come from people who actually have their feet on the ground. And when you have your feet on the ground, you usually can relay information to us to help us in some of the issues that's going. If we just have some consistency and we have some resolve, that type of determination to reduce those types of crimes. So with that, those park walk and talks are really one of the core foundations of what we're doing. But I always, say that we have to engage people no matter where we find them, whether we're walking, whether we're out having lunch or dinner, whether we meet them just by chance, we bump into them. We always have to be ready to be the ambassadors for good police community relations. The best armor that we have is the one of engaging with citizens wherever we find them. And common ground is really easy to find. Differences are the thing that sticks out, but the common ground, the commonalities is what binds us together. So every police officer is a community policing officer, not just the cops officers assigned to the districts. We have every officer here should be engaging with the community as an ambassador to find that information. So I mentioned earlier some of the outreach we would have, and that would be to the youth. Our Police Activity Athletic Activities League, the PAL program, which I would be happy to say that I restarted in Dallas in 2007 after it laid dormant for over 2 decades, which enabled us to reach thousands of youth. Well, Prince George's County PAL is one of the best that I've seen, with a small group of people who are making tremendous strides with engagement with the youth. And old guys like me, sometimes we can get stuck in our ways, but the youth, they have minds, that can be, molded and reshaped and progress us towards the future. So I have a belief that wherever we find them, through NGOs, non-governmental organizations, or not-for-profit groups, Boys and Girls Clubs, Girls Inc., Boy Scouts, whatever it is that we can find that we can partner with, that we realize we're not in this alone, but the work that they're doing or will do in some of those areas that we've mentioned earlier, like the basketball clinics, hiking, martial arts, the Cal Ripken Senior Camp, art and yoga, tennis, soccer clinics. We're putting all of these things together. And when I met with them last week, I talked about making sure that we're in the right place. That is what a summer crime initiative is all about. That is what Operation Heatwave is all about. It's not just about the enforcement of crime, but it's about building rapport with youth, building a better youth for our county, building a better youth for our state and our nation. So our PAL is actively engaging in the right locations with the youth for the summer. And we realize we can't do it alone, so we're finding those partners. The flip side of that is, what do we do about our seniors? We have much planned for our seniors in the coming months, but we work through PAL, through seniors and law enforcement together, which is called SALT, because we love acronyms here. I realize that, and I think that's a great one, by the way. So we educate people, our seniors 55 and older, and communities, the caregivers, the family members, those who might be victimized by financial crime scams. And we see that across the nation now, that our seniors are becoming more and more of a target with all kinds of scams that are going on. So One thing that we're going to plan here to implement is what I call the senior expos. And the senior expos deal with all kinds of issues regarding seniors that the seniors would like to see, not just financial scams, but things that they can relate to, things that they can actually help with. How do they build a robust community? And what I find is our seniors become a driving force behind communications, intelligence, information, and just a really dependable group who actively engage with the police. So we want to build those expos so that we can talk to them directly and educate them, and so they can be our best ambassadors. What I found to be successful was volunteers and patrol VIPs who came out and helped us. It helped me grow the place that I come to over 1,000 volunteers, many of them being seniors who was out in the community actively working for the best interests of the community. And I mentioned how we would focus on violent crime. Well, we've partnered with the acting U.S. attorney to deal with carjackings that cross jurisdictional lines, because that has become a really big issue. And a carjacking translated is an aggravated robbery. Someone takes a weapon, puts it on you, takes your property, namely your car or your car keys to take your car, and that is a carjacking. And we've seen an uptick in those. And so now when they cross jurisdictional lines, there just won't be a stolen car report. It will be an aggravated robbery, and the U.S. Attorney's Office will actually prosecute them for doing that. We're also focusing on street racing and ATVs during this time frame. We've been focusing on them all year, but we're going to have a more clear, targeted, focused on ATVs and street racing, since it's a growing thing around the country. Especially when these new movies come out and people see them and then they want to go out and emulate them. And that's what we saw the uptick when all of the movies come out. Young kids have always been doing it, but it showed a great increase after that. And then we're dealing with property crime. Even though property crime makes up 90% of our crime across the county, in any city for that matter, it's usually 9 out of 10 crimes are property crimes. But we do have a focus on that. But violent crime is our top priority during the summer. And we're going to direct some more initiatives of dealing with reducing property crime and how we actually mitigate some of the nuances that come with, people burglarizing your car or, taking things out of your car. We have lock, take, and hide and lock it or lose it programs where we're going to be dealing with mailers, because I mentioned crime prevention. So even our social media aspect will be ramping up for crime prevention tips, anti-auto theft, self-awareness, all of these things. Remember that I said no one gets a pass during the summer. All entities inside the police department work together for the greater good of the county during the summer crime initiatives for all operations in particular, but the summer is where we have our focus of working with those type of units who can talk. We're breaking down the silos of information so that we can share and network with each other and find out where we can help each other. That is the purpose of having district meetings. It is the purpose of having an overall CompStat meeting to deal with those issues going forth, that it has to become a way of life. I think what I'm bringing to the table is a way of life. I would have to mention that, when I was in my previous city, that Dallas was really an unsafe city for many, many years. And the perception under different executives was very different for how they met those numbers. But I will say, after the turnaround, after moving forward, and Dallas became the safest big city in America and had numbers that was respective to those accolades. And I think the same thing about Prince George's County. I've seen some really great officers. It's so easy for us to focus on the negative, but the greater whole and the greater good are men and women who go out here every single day. Because I have to say this about the county executive, because every time that I met her before my selection, and she would talk about officers, she always took the time to brag about the officers, to boast about the officers being really great. And you don't find that in a lot of leaders who always ready to say, I believe we have the best. And that made me believe it, but I've seen it with my own eyes since I've been here. So I like to focus and be optimistic that we have many officers who do the right thing, who serve the community, who offer a great police service, and in return, we get the kind of officer that we desire and we deserve. And so I take just that minute to say that just my basic belief that we have the core ingredients for moving forward, for getting back, on the right track, for reshaping things with a new eye and a new focus on doing well for the citizens in which we serve. Now, I know this is a town hall, so I didn't want to talk too long, giving a basic overview, because the questions that you have for me, I believe, are the most important aspect of why we have this type of interaction. So with that said, I'll yield.
Thank you, Chief, so much. And we do have questions that were pre-submitted from residents across the county. And I want to also take care of some housekeeping. Number one, I have learned that Delegate Alonzo Washington is viewing. He's the co-chair of our Law Enforcement Task Force Commission. We want to thank him for all of his service and everyone who served on the commission. Also, now, originally we were going to be live and virtual and trying to, facilitate discussion in real time. So please bear with us as we move to 100% virtual. So we are monitoring the chat and all the questions that come through. We're going to make it a point to get those questions over to PGPD and get answers out to every resident that has submitted a question. But I do want to start and kind of walk through some very thoughtful questions that came in from residents across the county. And Chief, this is going to go to you and to whomever you designate over at PGPD to help you kind of talk them through. But I believe most of these you've got. So the first category of questions is in the area of traffic and nuisance enforcement. And Chief, so the first kind of bucket here is, how will we continue to address enforcement related to illegally parked and abandoned vehicles, illegally modified vehicles with loud mufflers, speeding, reckless driving in residential areas, and reckless ATV riders? So there's a bucket of kind of nuisance complaints there.
Yes, let me start out, and I'll try to make a comprehensive response to what you just said. Illegally parked vehicles and abandoned vehicles. So I must say the parking authority has part of this, for dealing with some of the illegally parked vehicles. What I would want our citizens to do is that if you have an abandoned vehicle out there on the street, or you believe it to be abandoned, then to call us, at 911. I was just listening today to a great presentation on 311. Some of those issues can go to our police department customer service or 311, but either way, we're going to deal with them. But I want to make sure that when we're dealing with the abandoned vehicle aspect of it, because we deal with a large amount of stolen cars, or cars that are, it could be abandoned, it could be blocking your driveway or in a track or halfway in the roadway. Those are issues that your police department will take care of, and the parking authority will usually take care of the rest. But I want to make sure that our citizens have different avenues for contacting us to make sure that we bring ourselves to problem resolution, because we're always stating the problem and restating the problem, and we need to bring it to problem resolution. So I would say when we have habitual locations, habitual places that people are committing parking violations or what appears to be abandoned vehicles, that we work through our district officers, through our cops, and everyone should know their cops officer and their district commanders, so that we can actually go out, talk to people, develop a relationship, maybe explain to them what they're doing, so we don't have to. Our number one goal is to gain cooperation, not even just compliance, but cooperation with us. And so we need to be able to have the interaction face to face to deal with some of these habitual problems. Otherwise, police officers go out and we deal with these items so frequently that it takes police away from doing some of the things that you want us to do, especially dealing with violent crime or high volume property crime and things like that. That's what you want us to do. That's what you call on us to do. So we need to deal with those. And I would say the same thing about the illegally modified vehicles or loud mufflers. Usually police officers hear someone with a loud muffler if they see them and they're not on responding to a call for service. then they will stop them, and they can issue a citation. It's at the discretion of that officer, or they can issue, a warning to them and let them go and do things like that, which I would say most of the times police officers are always exercising more discretion than we write citations. Again, because we're looking for a cooperation for the best interests of the public safety is at our heart. But if you are on a street with someone who is committing these violations, they have a car that has a loud muffler, or they are modifying a vehicle, then those are things that can work through our cops office, because we want to go out, meet them, have a face-to-face engagement, talk about what they're doing, and again, gain the cooperation, because we're looking for problem resolution. Just this morning in my executive team meeting, I was talking about speeding and some of the issues that you said with reckless driving and some of the highways, shared responsibility inside our personnel strength of our traffic enforcement division, and we're in austerity, and for this to make sure that we have the proper amount of people to address some of the issues that we're trying to address, but that will not give us an excuse not to address them properly. So we was talking about how things come in. How do we deploy some of our resources to the right places at the right time to address some of those issues? I would tell the listeners here, you have a speeding problem in your area, that you need to contact us at the district stations, and you need to, or the bureau, to make sure it gets on our list with our traffic division and our police officers who are assigned to that district, so we can pay it a little extra attention and try to gain the compliance of the residents if it's on a residential area, because that's what I've been getting a lot of complaints about. Or it could be the Highway 210, which I've gotten numerous complaints about, and we're working through the issues dealing with that and how we provide the right enforcement for that. Lastly, I believe you said the ATVs and the ATV riders. We are doing certain things to address them. I mentioned that earlier. But they're moving all over the place, crossing jurisdictional lines. We don't chase the ATVs, but we will get our Guardian up, which I had the pleasure of riding in a few weeks ago, and getting some space, looking for license plates, seeing which direction they go. For instance, if they pull over to a gas station or a shopping center, that we're able to bring in marked patrol units and covert officers to make a stop. We've been confiscating stolen ATVs. We've been actually impounding some of the ones that we found and placing them. We've released some of them to rightful owners, and we filed offenses against those that were stolen, and we file offenses against those who we know who are committing these egregious violations by riding ATVs. So your police department is working on the issue, but I think it's compounded, and most citizens would agree that we don't want to chase for those crimes on an ATV, because it would usually end up in that person getting hurt, or innocent civilian getting hurt, or the police officer himself getting hurt trying to chase an ATV. So we're using the tools at our disposal to make what we believe are the proper decisions, and it is working, but it's going to take some more effort to address those issues on a whole. And I think, David, I answered most of those questions right there. If I forgot anything, my team can chime in if they please.
No, sir, you ticked through the categories. Thank you so much. The next category is community engagement. And this question is from Faye Nelson of Landover. What are your views on Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the efforts to push the Black community forward economically and educationally? What initiatives do you have in mind to reclaim that momentum in your leadership?
Well, first, I would say some of the commonalities for Black Lives Matter movement, they echo our general population as a whole, some of the thoughts that they have going forward. I wouldn't ever say that any one group would be in full agreement with anything, but I think we should agree that we want the best for our community, that we want the best for our citizens. And sometimes that path can go different ways. But if we meet up at the end for what is best for Prince George's County, then I think we'll be on the right track. I will say this for there are a lot of things, and I'll use Campaign Zero, the intelligentsia of the police, protocols or policies that they would like to see. And with those things that Prince George's County are doing, or we will work on, because I think it goes hand in hand with the reform group that the county executive formulated that we're implementing now. The Black Lives Matter general push, not just even economically or educationally, because I look at it from my point of view about what is education. So we're doing those things that Campaign Zero has put out there. De-escalation is a big part of my administration, but it's been a big part of Prince George's County. How do we de-escalate? Banning chokeholds and strangleholds. Those are things that we've done. Letting people know to stop, or giving them a warning, or having a duty to intervene, which I just signed off on an updated general order for a duty to intervene just a couple of weeks ago, or using what many would consider to be the use of force continuum, where even though it takes different names, the premise is still the same. And so there are few things on the 8 items that go hand in hand with what the reform group was talking about, what the county executive formulated. So my idea is to, going forward, is to marry all of those good things together in 21st century policing, which has the other 58 recommendations, or the accreditation, which we once had, that tells us that we're on the right track. So as I think about what the department will look like going forward, some of those very same things that the Black Lives Matter movement has put out there, or with Campaign Zero has put out there, or any other activist or advocacy organization talking about those issues that they've put out there, that I think we mirror the goodness of them to go forward. And we can always respectfully agree to disagree, but what we shouldn't do is stop talking, stop cooperating, and stop working together, although we may have different avenues to go forward. So when we talk about what I am doing to reclaim the momentum in my leadership, because I think that's what you said. So how do I reclaim something? Right now, I don't think that I've lost anything. I just got here. So I'm reclaiming something. I don't know if I have to reclaim it. I'm claiming it, that I have it right here before me, that I think police officers in general are the same, that we look at, that we desire great leadership, that we desire people to push us forward, that we want to have people in leadership positions that we can embrace and we can move forward to, that can mentor us, develop us, and push all of those things forward. So that momentum is what I just said. How do we formulate a mindset of 21st century policing that is years old now? And even before it became textual, it was there in many decades before that. People wanted to see us in a 21st century policing guardian mindset. So that is what I would claim, that we're going to lay the foundation of what police service should be, and we will expect nothing less of that. So that leadership that I provide is leadership that encompasses all of our officers and our civilians, that's sworn and non-sworn, and how do we have a collective mindset to move the policing service forward, realizing one thing, that we're not perfect. Policing is not perfect. Policing is imperfect, just as this union is imperfect, but that doesn't mean we won't strive towards making it better for everyone who's involved.
Thank you so much, Chief. Okay, so we are knocking on the door of 7 o'clock, in which I've got to do my duty and cut off at that point. So I'm going to try and tick through several more questions. And Chief, we're going to do this rapid fire and get through, okay?
Got you.
All right. This next question is from a Prince George's All-Star, Miss Jacqueline Woody, who has served the county in many roles for decades. Thank you, Ms. Woody, for your question. Here it is. How will the department's leadership and officers engage our younger residents in order to improve community relations?
I talked about this earlier, so I won't expound on it in a great deal, but I mentioned what we do in PAL and how we will engage. But when I've talked to officers across all districts and some of the units or other divisions, and we talked about that ambassadorship that I spoke of earlier. I'm going to engage our youth through PAL, but I'm going to engage our youth through many things that I've done in the past. And that is first finding out, what do the youth want? Because we hardly ever ask, we always give people what we think that they need, but we don't ask people, what do they want? And youth they have a voice. When I was a young guy, and it's not so much different, that I wanted you to give me something, but you never asked me. And that's the number one thing that I'm talking about, is what do you want? How can we help you? What do you think we can do to reach a vast majority of young people? So without expounding on all the things that I said earlier with the programs that we're having, we'll engage youth on the terrain in which we find them. And if that means in Prince George's School District or any other avenue, then we'll make those ways. But the first question is, we'll ask what they want, and then we'll try to partner with others who can give it, because we realize they can sometimes do it better than the police department. But we're going to be a partner in all the things that are good towards moving youth forward.
Okay, Chief. This next question is from Marion Williams. Part of her question is about community outreach, which you've answered, but there's also part of her question which focuses on department responsiveness, effective and efficient case follow-up, and communication when it comes to, working with the department to obtain documents and things like that. So could you talk to, also she says, welcome Chief Aziz, and her prayers and for your strength and courage are with you. Would you mind answering Mr. Williams's question?
Well, thanks so much. Thanks for the prayers. I appreciate it. I need as many prayers as I can get. It's we talk about when she talked about like case follow-up and all those things. I talk about priorities, about patrol is the backbone of every department, the first responder, the first investigator, the first person to interact with the community, and then that offense that has made a victim out of one of our citizens going over to the investigative unit, and that is an important aspect. And I'll just use one example with our homicide unit. No matter what happens, any family member wants resolution brought to the case. They want it cleared. They want the person who actually committed this horrific crime to be brought to justice. And I would put our homicide units clearance rates, I would put them above the level of many police departments' clearance rates across the country. But we operate in this atmosphere that these detectives, who I've met many of them, want to have the kind of engagement with our citizens when they become a victim of a crime, that they need to have the interaction, talk to them, get information and cooperation. And I would say that responsiveness is on a level that I haven't seen in a lot of places across the nation. So in communicating that, we talk about transparency, because the back end of that question really tells me about communication, getting case documents, things like that. That says thing about transparency and communication. I'm an open guy. I think people talk about transparency. And open records department that gives out the records and make sure you get them in a responsible time. Our responsiveness should show that I'm a believer in that, and moving that forward to Ms. Williams, who asked that question. And so with our partnerships together, I would think that if you have a issue on that, just don't let it fester, but call my office, call the district commanders, call someone in my department, so that we can be held accountable, because I believe we want to be held accountable. Accountability is something that we request. It's not some notion or some thought or something that's out there that's invisible or non-tangible. To us, it is tangible. Accountability is something that we can actually touch. And I want you to communicate with us when you're not getting the proper case follow-up, or someone is not getting the proper case follow-up. With the many cases that we have, we should be meeting your demands on what you should expect and what you deserve.
Okay. Our next question is from Jasmine. Thank you for your leadership and your commitment towards improving diversity in the police department. Can you discuss how the department will try and carry out that principle?
Well, I look at diversity on two levels, because one is diversity on how you bring people to the department, which that is what I was focusing on. I think the first week on the job, I think the acting deputy chief Webster can attest to that, that we talked about how we would recruit, and recruiting is about diversity. It is about getting the most qualified individual that reflects or mirrors the makeup of the community in which we serve. And how do we retain them? How do we not just how do we get people here in a qualified, diverse kind of way, but how do we retain them for the duration, in the 5-year mark, the 7-year mark, or when a burnout or things like that happen? How do we keep them? So I look at that on all different levels. What I've requested here is a plan for recruiting with diversity in mind, to not just meet all demographics in different places, the formulation of different teams that we will entertain that meet people. For example, I met a guy, and I won't say his name, but I know his name. We was out on the harbor, and he's an officer, and he talked about military recruiting, how he thought he could best serve, how he could best recruit military, or how we could best do it. And what it sounded like to me, he was volunteering. So he volunteered to me in essence, and that's what I told him. So now you need to call the Deputy Chief Webster, and you need to be part of the military recruiting team. Since you best know how to recruit the military mind, then we expect you to do that. But when I met with the LGBTQ, I talked to them about the same thing, LGBTQ recruiting team. We talked about in aspects of being Black, and how do we go to HBCUs and churches, and we go to places that we find the great majority of Blacks who may have an interest in policing. But we have a large El Salvadoran community also. So I've been talking to different people, including some on the council, about how do we bring more El Salvadorans in here so that we can actually recruit properly, because we also have an issue over there that gang members are taking our best young people and providing them with this false sense of security and love, when we can do just the same things from the police department and give them a better quality of life. So diversity is on all levels. And then looking at what do we have in captains, what do we have in majors and deputy chiefs, and how do we have a qualified, diversified command staff? Those are more difficult decisions to make, but still we'll meet them, going forward. So I just look at it on several different levels, Jasmine, but I think we're on the right road to having a robust recruiting retention plan that will be reflective of the community in which we're serving, that will get to the points that we can keep people, retain people.
Okay. And our last set of questions, which I'm going to merge here so that we can be efficient, comes from a resident who should receive the award for the most conscious resident, Miss Marla Jefferson from Upper Marlboro, who submitted 8 questions. And so, Miss Jefferson, we're going to answer a few of your questions and get you answers in writing for the others. But thank you so much for taking the time. So the first 2 questions that I put together are really about what are we doing to make seniors feel more comfortable in their communities? And, does the department have programs that help folks walk through home safety checks? So we'll put those together, and the chief will ask one more question, and then we'll go to closing statements from yourself and the county executive.
And let me answer this one, as quickly as I can. Yes, the answer is yes. If a homeowner wants us to come out, our cops officers, we have a program called Crime Prevention through Environmental Design. And most of our cops officers should be trained in it to come out, do a security survey, and let you know things like, do you have the proper deadbolt lock? Does it have the length of screws should be to safely maintain your door? Or what do you have around your residence to prevent someone for breaking in? Or what, and they go through this comprehensive review, and among their other duties, but they can do those things right there. And generally our cops officers would do it, but it's crime prevention through environmental designs. And we want to help our homeowners feel safety. As a matter of fact, in some jurisdictions, and I hope it's in state of Maryland or Prince George's County, that if you get one of those, your insurance company will usually help you out and say that you have done some of those things to prevent a burglary or a crime from taking place at your residence. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And then the last question is actually about inventory and testing and about rape kits. How many untested rape kits are there in Prince George's County as of June 2021, sir?
At the end of 2020, we had 2,100 cases, and it's just over that now. Here's the good news about it. We did a grant last year, and we were able to test clear about 500 cases out on a backlog. I just signed a grant here and forwarded just a couple of weeks ago with two different grants dealing with this same backlog. So we're confident that we're going to be able to test the 2,100 plus rape kits that we have through the help of those grants to possibly bring some resolution to some of those cases as technology advances in DNA and the things that we're doing. So we have those grants in place. We're making some strong headway into it, and we're not giving away to it. We're going to get the untested rape kits done with the grants and with some great resolve from some of the best workers that I've seen, best employees that I've seen who take a vested interest in making sure that we bring justice to this.
All right, thank you, sir. And with that, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping and turn it right back over. So remember, if you have a question, get answered and you put it in the chat, we will get back to you. Please take a second though to add your email to the chat if you haven't done that already. You can also email us at pgctownhalls@co.pg.md.us. That's pgctownhalls@co.pg.md.us. And we're going to release the town hall tonight on social media tomorrow. Please follow the county executive at CEX Alsobrooks. That's at CEX Alsobrooks on Facebook and Twitter. So with that, Chief Aziz, County Executive Alsobrooks, I'll turn it over to you for final thoughts.
Well, I want to thank the chief. I'll let him have the final word tonight, but I would like to thank him for really setting out tonight a clear vision about how we move forward in Prince George's County. We're very proud to have you here, Chief Aziz, and look forward to your continued leadership. I also want to thank the members of our police department who are here tonight, and the chief did such a phenomenal job. He didn't need anyone to jump in and add context. I think he did a great job of just leading the discussion and answering the questions himself. So we thank you for that. And then, of course, to Chair Hawkins, thank you so much as well for your leadership. And we, you and all your colleagues, we just want to thank you for the amazing partnership that we share. And to the public for tuning in tonight, we thank you. You are the best partners we could imagine. There is nothing that we do well in public safety without your engagement and without your partnership. And so we thank you most especially for not only tuning in tonight, but we thank you so much for your commitment every day of the week. Prince Georgians are engaged every day of the week. And I say this most sincerely, I know it because I see you out. I see you out in the community walks. I've seen so many of you, especially prior to the pandemic, at all of the community meetings and the homeowner associations, and many of you have joined us still yet virtually, and you've just not subsided in terms of your commitment. And so we just thank you for that commitment. We know that we're going to increasingly get better. We have some challenges that we're confronting right now, but what we wanted you to know tonight is that we're committed to it. We're committed to making sure that the concerns we have are addressed. And, you know, we're looking forward to having more of these, especially in person. We wish that tonight we could have done this in person, but we look forward to continuing to engage with you in person. And I'll leave this one thought and then hand it over to Chief Aziz. And I think that it requires further discussion, but for the good of the public, what I want you to know, for those who are asking, well, what does the county executive think about what we've heard? There are two very important concepts that I hope I can get across to you. And those concepts, I believe, exist in tandem, that they are not separate concepts, but they operate together. And those are the concepts of justice and freedom. And so we've been talking a lot about what we deserve in our communities. And the thing that I want us to understand is you can't have one without the other. Justice means that what happens should be fair and equitable. It means that it should respect the humanity of the people that we serve, but we should also have freedom. meaning that we should be able to walk the streets, go in front of your home and be free of crime, to not only to be safe, but to feel safe. And I believe, and so if you ask me what it is that I desire, and what in my leadership I hope we leave behind, is we deserve a community that is both just and free. And I believe that we can achieve both of those goals at the same time. No matter how complicated and challenging it is, we must have both justice, and people should be free. Nobody should fear carjackings. Nobody should fear robbery. Nobody should fear any crime. But they also must feel that what happens in our community is just. And I think we can accomplish both of those things. So I'm going to hand it over to Chief Aziz.
Thank you so much, County Executive. I'll thank the County Executive and the Common Council Chair, Hawkins, and my team. But mostly, I really want to thank the community. We can't do anything without you. When we have, we're all in this together. So if we're looking for the best police community relationship, then it's going to start with us and the community. You play a vital role in helping us accomplish the things that we want to see in our community. If we want to have crime reduction, then our best intelligence and information comes from the community. Nothing that we can do here in the police department happens without you, and we need you. I think I'll echo some of the same things that was said before, that we have a great amount of challenges in front of us, but we have the collective power to resolve those challenges that lie ahead. And I believe that because this wouldn't be the first time in our history that we confronted a challenging environment. And challenging environment was made for those who have a desire to lead. It was made for those who have a desire to have a better community, made for those who desire to have a better outcome for their children, for the people in their family. And so I would urge the community on some things that we talked about here tonight to get involved in some kind of way. Get involved with your youth, whether that is mentoring or teaching young, kids how to read, especially before the third grade. Get involved with some of your YMCAs or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or Girls Inc. or any other NGO that seeks to serve in the best interests of our young people. Get involved with taking care of some of our seniors, or delivering meals, or talking to seniors and giving them another outlet. Get involved with our high schools and our Explore programs with our cadets, and things that make our community what it is, very vibrant and progressive, and this very diverse community. So with that said, I just really want to thank you for having me tonight, and giving me this avenue and a forum to talk about Operation Heat Wave and our summer crime initiative, and the new way of life in which we shall approach crime reduction and community policing. If you don't remember anything else, just remember that I said they are one and the same. And I know that our progressive police department will rise to the challenge on partnering with you, the community, the most important aspect in this equation. So thank you so much.
Thank you all so much, and have a great night. And when you get the recording, please share with a neighbor and keep us Prince George's proud. Thanks so much.